Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Prego and today I'm going to talk about happiness, and more specifically I'm going to talk about how to attain happiness all the time. So happiness is an intriguing field because, next slide please, the researchers believe that happiness is an easiest yet the hardest state to attain. And I agree on this because, you know, some of the times when we're really happy we think happiness is everywhere, but then just a slight tilt of the mood and we try to seek happiness, it doesn't really go the right way. So there are a lot of sources of happiness that we can fall back on, such as materialism, love, social relationships, etc. Everything you can think of. But I believe that being a human individual, the ultimate goal related to happiness is to be happy without seeking for happiness. Meaning the environment and circumstances that are around us will make us happy naturally. So next slide. So before I introduce my one source of happiness that will lead to this ultimate goal, just a quick interactive question. Just quick raise of hand if you have spent hours on these stuff without even realizing that time is flying by. Thank you. So it is a predictive response because it has consumed our society. But the reason I raise this question is that experience of not knowing that time is flying by could be it's kind of related to what my source of happiness is. So my source of happiness that I'm going to introduce today is flow, the state of flow. So to improve your understanding of the state of flow, the definition is when one is fully engaged in an experience, and this results in the suspension of the sense of self and has a clear objective. So let's apply this definition to the social media just now, that example. So let's say you plan to, you want to learn how to write a chemical equation. So you go onto YouTube, you'll start surfing around, and you have a clear objective that you want to learn the chemical equations. And obviously because you want to achieve this goal and you're focusing, you're not really distracted by the other environments, you're just focusing. And once you actually learn how to write the chemical equation, eventually you'll be satisfied and you'll be happy. It seems pretty simple and pretty logical, but there's a little more to it. So flow was originated from a Chinese philosopher, Zhuangzi, and he believed in this philosophy that the ultimate happiness is achieved when one takes in an action without any ulterior motives, such as fame, money, anything that kind of relates to greed. So I would like to share one description of a butcher. He described his experience of being a butcher, and Zhuangzi believed that this is the best example that is presented as the state of flow. Next slide. So this is how he described his butcher experience. But I would like to break this paragraph down into the components of flow. So it is not stated in here, but butcher's goals are mainly to chop the meatloaves off as the perfect size possible or the perfect weight that the customers are asking for. Or some of them they also pursue in these they want to cut it into really nice pieces. So these goals exist. And the second factor is that he's actually engaged in the activity because he says, he will tell himself to watch out and be careful, keep his eyes on what he's doing, work very slowly and move them now with a great subtlety. So this kind of implies that this job experience requires a lot of focus. So we can assume that he's really focused when he's doing this activity. And the most important part of flow is that he says he's completely satisfied, and obviously it is because he has achieved his goal, and he says he's reluctant to move on because that is enough for the day. He is very satisfied for the day. And believe it or not, this Zhuangzi actually met him, and he was continuing this process of, this butcher Ting was continuing this process of flow, and after 3 years, Ting was actually able to cut his meatloaves by instinct without even looking. So by this process, he improved on his actual skills, and he also gained a lot of satisfaction and happiness. Next slide, please. And so, to be honest, the process is really simple. There's an activity, you set a goal, you focus, and you achieve the goal, and there's satisfaction. So what is the actual meaning behind this? So most of us, most of our lives are occupied with, could be typical activities such as doing homework or just doing chores, or it could also require some, very complex activities as, maybe just taking a test or anything like that. It is all involved in your life. But what I want to say is that because we tend to value these activities into different levels, so we don't really embrace the slightest satisfaction that comes from just doing homework. And I believe that, embracing these slightest happiness from just, helping your mom buying something, or just doing a single-handed, preparing for an AE presentation or anything, small like that, you need to embrace and recognize the slightest happiness from them. And I think this is the smallest step for you to prepare yourself to be ready for the larger happiness. Some people argue that, if you keep setting goals like this, isn't it kind of like, achievement seekers, or like, overachievers who just wants to brag about their achievements? Well, this is not true, because people who experience the state of flow regularly, are actually not aware that they're actually setting goals and they're trying hard for these satisfaction, because it has become a part of their lives. And obviously when they started, it was a practice, so they were saying, I'm going to set the goal, I'm going to try hard, and I'm going to get the satisfaction. But one day, they just realized that they're not really aware of that. And what this leads to is that a lot of us think about, oh, how do I be happy, my happy status and all these things. But when these processes become when they're unaware of these processes, it actually leads to yourself not actually questioning about your happiness at all, because your satisfaction is there. It's like it's just there from doing all these daily life activities. So all in all, the phrase that researchers said, happiness is easiest yet the hardest to attain, I feel like it is one statement that we could actually make an effort to change. And I believe that one day, some of us will practice the state of flow, and we will actually not think about our happy status. Then I'm proud and glad to tell you that you're probably one of the most happiest person in the earth today. Thank you for listening. And we have 7 minutes for discussion. These are some discussion questions. So first question is very simple. Apart from the sources I introduced, where do you actually obtain happiness, and do you think they provide short or long-term happiness, and why do you think so? Or you could just give me the sources that you gain happiness from. Yes.